Hello, welcome back to the channel. In today's data automation exercise, we are going to split one file, one Excel sheet into multiple worksheets in the same file. I think this is a common corporate request that you may be asked by your colleagues to split one file into multiple sheets or multiple files. And maybe in one of the future videos, we're going to split one Excel file into multiple files. So today we're going to use one of Spotify's datasets, which is available on kaggle.com. And the only thing I have done is I have added here a new column, which I have called split part. And we're going to split these 8,500 something rows into 25 different parts, meaning we will have to dynamically add 25 worksheets, and each worksheet will have different number of rows. So we're going to do this in a dynamic manner. And I'm gonna click out F11 to launch the Visual Basic Editor. And here I have already added two subroutines, and we have done this in one of the previous videos, and I'll make sure to paste the link in the description just in case you haven't watched it. But what this subroutine allows us is to add dynamically a worksheet and pass a name for that new worksheet as an argument. So just to show you, if I call this subroutine from another subroutine and provide some gibberish name and click run, then we can see that it dynamically creates a new worksheet and change its name. So back to the Excel window and back to the Visual Basic Editor, I'm going to add a new module and start writing a subroutine which I will call split data. And I would like to quickly create a structure in order to loop in that last column here. So I will need, as I said, I want to make this dynamic. So I will need one variable for the last column, one variable for the number of rows, and another variable that I'll use as a counter in the loop. But before this, first I would like to declare a variable for that store a reference to the only sheet we have currently, which I will call src, short for source, as worksheet, and set this to this workbook dot worksheets dot Spotify data. And then let's add these three variables. Last row of type long integer I, which will be the counter in the loop, again of type long integer, and the last column can simply be integer. And then let's find those here, and I think we've done this many times already, so no need to explain in details what I'm doing. Excel to left dot column, and just to see if this is correct, let's print those values in the immediate window. I will click run. So the last row should be 8,583. That is correct. And the last column should be 14. That is also correct. So I'm gonna get rid of this debug print dot statement. And let's write a loop. So for I equals 2 to last row, because we're going to start from the second row since the first one is the header. And now what I want to do is I would want to loop through that column, and I need to find the row where the first part ends, and then obviously in the next row the second part will start, and so on. I need to underline that the way I'm writing this code will work as long as this last column is sorted. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So the logic will be that once I find, in this case, the 340 whatever row, then we'll have to do several things. We'll have to we will have to identify this range and probably store it in some variable, which will be dynamic variable. The header range is also what we will need to copy, but this one is constant. It's the same for all sheets, so we can declare it outside the loop. And then we'll have obviously to add a new worksheet dynamically, for which we will use the subroutine that I showed in the beginning of the video. So back to the Visual Basic editor, and I want to write a logic here that if the current row is the same as the next row, simply to skip this iteration, because I need to find a row where the current row is different from the next row. So I'm going to do this with a label, and I'm going to write this, that if the cells on row I and column last call is the same as the cells on the next row, which will be obviously I plus 1, and again last call that value, then end if, and here I will type in go to next iteration. I think we have done this already in the previous videos, and here just before the end of the loop I can write next iteration colon, and now if I test this, I can write here debug.print I, and this will print the first row where these two cells have different values. And if I type in here stop and click run, it prints the number 342. So let's see if this is correct. 342 is this is the row, and it's one of Nirvana songs. So yeah, we can see that this is the end for part 1. And if I click run once again, then the next part should end at row 691. And let's also verify that this is correct. So it's 691. This is the row. It's Muse. And yeah, this is the last row for part 2. So here I now need to see how to proceed further, and as mentioned already, we will have to copy the header range, which will be the same for all new worksheets. So I'm going to declare a variable here, header range, as range, and since it's going to be the same for all sheets, we don't need to set it inside the loop. We can set it before the loop. So this will be the range of cells in worksheet source, which is Spotify data range, where the first cell will be on row 1 and column 1, or cell A1, and the last cell will be on row 1 and column last call -1. I'm subtracting here 1 because I don't want to copy this column into the new worksheets. And if I test if this is correct, I can simply write header range.select and write stop here. And if I click run, we can see here that it has correctly selected the header besides this column, which I don't want to copy. So that was an easy part. Now what I will also need is I would declare here another variable, which will be for the dynamic part that we will have to copy, and this will be the tricky one to find. And we will also need a few more variables here. So I will write start, I will declare a variable which I will call start row as long, end row as long. And this will this will indicate for each part which is the start row and which is the end row. The start row in the beginning for the first part will be row 2. So before the loop, and let's get rid of the select statement here. Before the loop, I will assign the start row to 2. And this is where we'll dynamically need to find the range that we'll have to copy. So I will write set before setting the range. The end row will be I in this case, right? So I can now set this copy range, set copy range, and this will be the range of cells where the first cell will be on row start row, and the column will be 1, column A, and the last cell will be on row end row. By the way, I didn't need another variable. The only reason I declared another variable is because to make it more understandable, I could simply use I here. End row, and the column will be last call -1 again, because I don't want to copy this last column into the new worksheets. And now if I type in here copy range.select, and if I type in stop here, and if I click run, let's see if the first part was selected correctly. So it starts from the second row, and if I scroll through the 342nd row, that is correct. However, start row in the next iteration will still be 2, and this is not going to work. So before the end of this loop, we need to change the start row to become the end row +1. So if I write here start row equals end row +1, and if I now click run, actually let me reset it first and click run. This is again the first part I believe was selected correctly, and if I now click run once again, then we can see that it has selected the rows for the second part, starting from the first row for the second part. And if I keep on scrolling, we'll see that it correctly ends at the last row for the second part. So back to the Visual Basic editor, I'm going to remove these select statements because they are only used for debugging, and they should never be used in a real project. And now what we need to do is, now we will add a new worksheet. And for this, I will need some more variable names, which first one will be the name of the worksheet, which will be string. And the second one will be the worksheet as subject. And the name of the worksheet will be whatever is stored in this variable, because each worksheet will be named with this part 1, part 2, and so on. So I will copy this here and assign worksheet name to be this. Now I'm gonna call this function that I showed, this subroutine that I showed in the beginning, and pass this variable as an argument. And we need to set now this worksheet to be equal to this workbook dot worksheets, and the name of the object is whatever we have in this variable. And now we need to copy both the header and the copy range. I'll write a command here, copy header. So we can simply copy this range. So header range dot copy and paste it using the destination argument in the new worksheet in cell A1, or we can write it like that, but I prefer to use in cells. So this is the header, and then the copy range. We can write copy range dot copy destination is the new worksheet, and we need to paste it always on the second row, so row 2 and column 1. So this is, I believe, the entire subroutine. Let me quickly check to ensure that I have removed all select statements that I wrote earlier, just to not select statements, select lines. This is not SQL. I think we don't have any selecting ranges and so on, or stop markers, so I can probably simply click run and see what's going to happen. When I click run, if everything is correct, it should add 25 worksheets. And we will also see the change here in the VBA Project Explorer. So I'll click run and let's see what's going to happen. Okay, I believe it's ended and the code was executed correctly, but let's verify this. We have indeed 25 new worksheets, and I think somewhere here we should have the Bohemian Rhapsody of Queen, and it should be in part 9. So let's see if it's indeed here. And yeah, it's here. And also let's see that the number of rows is correct. So maybe I will pick some random part, maybe part 6. It starts from here. And it should have 333 rows for part 6. So let's see if this is correct. Yes, 331. Yeah, I think the procedure works fine. Obviously, in a real world project, maybe this part here in the loop should be isolated in another subroutine to make it more maintainable in the future. But of course, this is simply for demonstration purposes. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please drop those in the comment section and I'll reply as soon as I can. And you can also recommend me with any ideas what future videos to create. Again, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.